Welcome to Hear In Hanover, your all-access pass to everything happening in Hanover County. I'm your host, Kristen Smith Dunlop. Today we're talking about something that impacts every Hanover resident, and that is the county budget. County Administrator John Budesky recently introduced his budget for fiscal year 2027, and he joins us today to break it all down for us. Hi, John.
Hello again. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk numbers and budgets. Start with the basics, though. When you talk about the county budget, what does that really entail, and what does it fund?
Well, the one thing I like to say about the county budget is if you're looking to understand what the priorities of a locality is, a local government, or any entity for that matter, look at the budget. The budget is a priorities document that should represent the community's interest on their needs, and that's how we fund those services, based on the revenues that we collect both locally and through other revenue sources that makes up our total all funds budget. But that process is it's similar to your home budget, just on a much larger scale. And so as we think of ourselves as homeowners and families that live in a community, we think about what are the pressing needs. There's always more needs than available revenues, so income versus expenses. We make tough choices at home too, right? Do we fix the roof this year? Can we extend the roof a little bit longer? What are our priorities this year? And just like at home, there's always more needs than ability to fund. But we also, on the local government side, have to look at it through a fairness and equity kind of standpoint. What is fair for our residents to pay for the services that they expect as well? And how do we make those priorities? And those priorities are really funded at the end of the day by what we hear from our residents, what our residents tell us throughout the year, the services they'd like to see supported, things that they'd like to see added. And yet also maintaining that understanding that, things at home, they make tough choices, so the local government needs to make tough choices as well.
Okay, so you want to give us kind of a big picture look at the budget in terms of what the priorities are.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because this year's budget that I introduced, and let me explain a little bit about my budget recommendation, because the way the state code set up is, as a county administrator, county manager, city manager, we introduce what's called the recommended budget. So in this case, it's the county administrator's recommended budget. And what we do is that basically takes the process of working with all of our internal offices and constitutional officers and building what is a balanced budget recommendation based on all of their feedback. And again, there's more needs often than available revenues. And every February, in this case, I did just on February 18th, introduce what's called the county administrator's recommended budget. This year's was a little bit different than prior years because we spent a fair amount of time, and I encourage anybody who has interest. It was an hour and 20-minute long presentation. It's available out there for anyone who would like to go watch that. We spent a fair amount of time really helping our residents and constituents understand where did we make investments, not only what we're recommending moving forward for fiscal year 27, but what have we done in the past 5 years? Because the past 5 years has been some monumental investments in services and capital facilities for our community. So this year's budget, we spent a fair amount of time really looking backwards and looking at where did we make those investments. And we talked both about public education and general governmental services. And we really went back into, let's talk about what did we do. And we really made investments in replacing a number of our schools over the past 5 years, a number of public safety investments with fire stations and equipment, but it was really a lot about people. And where did we make our investments? And we really tried to take care of the people that are providing those necessary services for our residents. And that's anything from our personnel for public safety, and that includes our courts and Commonwealth attorneys' offices, sheriff's office, certainly, fire and EMS, animal protection and 911, and then we talk about general government. That's everything else that's anything from administration to finance to parks and recreation. Our human services falls under that particular area, and our constitutional offices that we support, but also our community resources like libraries and not-for-profit supports that we provide through our community and partnership. And that budget really, at the end of the day, our job, unlike federal government, is to make sure it's balanced. We are required annually to balance a budget from our revenues and expenditures. And so we introduced what in the recommended FY27 budget, really sustaining those services that we invested in the past 5 years and the strides we've made. And we've made some really solid strides and outcomes Anywhere from the sheriff this year introduced that the past year they've had the lowest recorded crime rate on record in Hanover County. Our schools were able to share that they continue to knock it out of the park with their outcomes across K through 12, and having accredited school systems, and the quality of educators in our system is really unparalleled in the Commonwealth. Something really to be proud about. But in the recommended budget, we talked about what do we need to do to sustain that, and that's continuing to make those investments in those people that are delivering those results for our community.
Mm-hmm. Schools and public safety really take up the biggest chunk of the budget. You want to talk about that? They're obviously both big priorities in Hanover.
Huge, and they should be. Local governments, especially at the county level in the Commonwealth, our primary services for the communities are public safety and public education. And so in Hanover, those make up well over 50% of our budget. And as they should, that's where our priorities lie. We have, as the state has reduced some of their commitment, the locality has had to pick up more on the public education front. Almost 80% of the public education budget is people. And so as we think about those that are making the biggest difference in our students' lives, it's the educators, it's the folks getting our students safely to schools, and our bus drivers, and the folks that take care of that, the school buildings and provide food and nutrition and aids, and all those folks are really what makes the heart. While we talk about the buildings being great educational environments, and we've made investments there too, it's really the people that bring those buildings to life and make a difference every day in the students' lives. That's what's really on the public education side. And on the public safety side, we think about public safety, and we all want to make sure that when 911's called, you got trained, very well capable people to respond. But think about it, they're responding at people's worst times in their lives, and they're doing that while you and I are sleeping, and they're making sure that they're ready to, at a moment's notice, to respond to those, in many cases, tragedies and very difficult life events for our residents. But they're doing that 24/7, 365. They're answering that 911 call and making sure they're there for us. And they continue to step up and provide a high-quality service, so we need to make sure that we have the best and brightest serving our residents to do that.
Infrastructure has also been a focus over the last, however many years. Quite a few road and transportation improvement projects, and those are ongoing.
Yeah, and so if you think about roads in Hanover, if you look back not long ago, just over 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago now, we had little ability to invest in our road and infrastructure side of the equation. We were putting about $1 million worth of general funds towards leveraging state and federal grants. That has really changed in the past few years. We've done well over $100 million in the past 5 years of projects because of our investment and partnership with the Central Virginia Regional Transportational Authority. That has now given us local infusions of funds to really jumpstart road projects that would have taken decades to get to. And so not only was I able to share what we've done over the past 5 years, but really the projects in the next 5 and what we're taking on there. And we're seeing major strides and improvements. So projects that literally would have been 5 to 10 years out are now in the books for the next year or two. And so the roads that people think about, we just finished 360, which was a major project. Pole Green Road is moving forward. Atlee Station Road's moving forward. A number of roundabout and safety projects are moving forward. Road widening projects. But they're not all, and I want to be clear, they're not all just projects in the urbanized, suburbanized areas of the county. We're also thinking about the folks that live in the rural areas and what projects can we do to make safer roads, both east and west in our county as well, to make sure we're looking at the collective needs of all of our residents as it relates to infrastructure.
Okay. What about services that impact residents? Anything specific you want to highlight there?
One thing that it's important to realize that just sustaining good service, it requires more investment next year. And making sure that we have a competitive workforce that's paid competitively with the right benefits so we keep that talent here. That's been as I said, we shared the results from the past 5 years. Just sustaining that requires further investment. And we did that in this year's recommended budget. We recommended a merit and healthcare changes that will take care of the employees on both the local government side and the school side. And making sure that that talent is recognized well and continue to be trained. And one thing I always say to our folks is, you don't have to want to become the next county administrator or a supervisor next year, but you do need to be better at the level of service you provide next year than you provide today. And what's that mean? That means we need to make sure that we're training you properly, providing you growth opportunities, mentoring, those kinds of things. And one thing I'm really proud of is we also have invested in the future of our workforce. And so our internship program is really seeing some infusion. While we continue to put a little bit of extra funding into that program each year, the team in HR and the leadership there really has embraced this program. Leadership countywide has embraced this program. We're bringing folks in. We have high school folks that have done internships with us, but certainly at the college level, we're bringing more and more folks in so they can really see that local government is an area they can invest in and make a career out of. The difference we can make in people's lives at the local level is surpasses any other level of government. We can make changes tomorrow that really helps our residents, or today even. And so really getting that next generation of talent to see the opportunities that they have. Most folks don't realize this, but we have 26 different kinds of business units that serve our residents each day. And that takes anything from, we have folks that have never graduated high school that work for the county, all the way up through MDs. And it takes every one of those folks to make a difference in the lives of our residents. And so we have to value all levels of talent. And the skilled labor, we're seeing a need for that talent as much as ever. Our school systems, you talked about infrastructure. One of the projects we did there was a partnership to expand the Career and Technical Education Center. They're going to be able to focus on diesel mechanics and welding, areas that there's job opportunities tomorrow for some of these students. So, you don't always have to be college bound. There are real well-paying jobs out there that we're looking to create that pipeline for folks tomorrow. And we've made those investments too. So I'm really proud of the team that we have here in Hanover County. It's an honor for me every time I get to talk about the talent that we have here, but really thinking about how can we cultivate that, work with our school system, and really help people be prepared for the workforce tomorrow. And again, that's not always college education. That's really being able to go use your hands and use your talents. And that need is more now than ever.
And we have great people here in Hanover. We really do.
We're blessed. We have a great community and a great group of talented individuals that serve them.
We do. So this is your recommended budget, but it's not a done deal. We're looking for feedback. You want residents' feedback on the process. Talk about the process of getting feedback, it going before the board, that sort of thing.
Thank you. And the budget process, while we have that formal period I introduced in February, we target April for adoption. The budget's a living, breathing process for us. And what I mean by that is we hear every day from our residents, both those that are struggling on fixed incomes, that can't afford more, all the way up to those that want additional services and more infrastructure, and trying to balance both sides of that equation. And so we listen outside of the formal process. I can't tell you how many times that I hear in Food Line, or I hear at church or a sideline of a soccer game, hey, this is what we need, or I want you to do this different, from our residents. And all of us, all of the employees that work here, our board hears that. We take that feedback serious, and that influences the recommended budget and then what's ultimately adopted from the board. But residents, we have what's called a public hearing that's required by code to have, and that's coming up here early April. But we listen to our residents every time. I always say, you can pick up the phone and call me. You can pick up the phone and call a board member. You can send emails and share letters and messages and share your thoughts on the budget and needs and or challenges every day. You can come to any one of our budget, or not only our budget public hearings or meetings, but all the board meetings are public. We have citizens time. Come on out, share your thoughts on the budget there. You don't have to wait for that budget public hearing to come out. And so there are a number of opportunities between now and April 8th, which is targeted for adoption, that we look forward to hearing from our residents. I get calls and conversations every day on this. The board does. Every line item of our budget and all of my recommendation and all of that information's on the county's website. As soon as we introduce that budget, we put out what we call our budget book, which is an overview of everything that's in the budget, and then it goes down to the line item per department. Folks want to see that level of detail, it's all out there. And so I encourage folks to take a look at that information, be informed. I talk to folks every day, and the budget's large. I mean, it's there's the general fund side that's more the tax dollars that folks pay in, and then there's a collective budget. we're close to $1 billion in budget now, just a couple hundred million short of that. There's a lot of moving parts in a budget in an organization of our size. And so we try to make that as understandable as possible for folks that don't live and breathe budgets every day. Where's our priorities? Where does that money go? Where do the revenues come from? Make sure we help people understand that side. And so we want people to be educated and understand where their tax dollars are going and what the priorities are of their local government. So we put it all out there as open as we can.
Anything else you want to share?
No, I just pretty much a thank you to our residents. And when I say that, I mean our business community as well. We meet with our chamber and our businesses and our residents. Our folks in Hanover are as engaged as anywhere I've ever seen it. And that engagement makes us a better community, that makes us all better informed residents and staff, and together we want to deliver for our residents. And so just a thank you to everyone in our community that makes sure that we understand their perspectives. We have a very solution-oriented community. Government can't do everything for everybody. And so we do balance that and value our faith community, our not-for-profit community, and others that step up in volunteer capacities to help get the collective work a community needs done. And so working together, we're able to deliver the best possible Hanover we can for our residents, and just appreciate everyone's commitment to that.
All right. Thanks for breaking it down for us and explaining how it impacts residents in our community. Definitely looking forward to input from our residents about what they think. Thanks, John. Again, you can view the budget on our website, hanovercounty.gov, or you can go to engage.hanovercounty.gov and find it there as well, and share your feedback. Come to the board meetings. Reach out to John. He'll take your call or your email and take it to heart.
Please do.
That's going to do it for us. We will see you next month here in Hanover.